It's here, folks. I finally got some after looking and looking. Gaboon Ebony. This wood is the darkest, the blackest wood that you can get, and this is the true, the Gaboon Ebony. There are some different varieties. I have gotten worked with Macassar Ebony before, and it's got some really cool kind of golden brown streaks that run through it. But this is kind of the pinnacle of, at least for me, what I've been looking for making wands, ebony wood. So welcome back to the Myth Impressions channel. Nemesis Gear, Steampunked Out, and of course, Knox Hollow are our brands, and we are in the Knox Hollow wood shop making wands again with the all precious Gaboon Ebony. And I probably should have shown this at the beginning. One of the problems with this, you can find this Gaboon Ebony at the craft stores and stuff. The problem is that every time that I find this, it's usually like small little project blanks for wood turning, and the longest that almost always find is around 12 inches, which if you've watched any of my videos, all my wands most of my wands are between 13 and 16 inches long, which means I have to have a little bit longer than that in order to be able to cut it down. So 12 inches, the best I could get out of that is 11 and a half inch wand. And those are really reserved for like the apprentice wands that I do they're not as fancy. They're really made more for the kids. I don't spend as much time on them. And it's a smaller wood, and it seems really short. So it's great for small hands, but for larger hands, for the older folks like myself who are big wand fans, I like a longer piece. So the thing with this, I got really lucky. I've been looking, and I found sometimes I can find pieces that are around 18 inches long, but they're only 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. They're rough cut. They're covered in some sort of paraffin wax or sealing wax to keep them from warping after they're cut down into these little project blanks. And by the time that you cut that into small enough pieces, they end up being a little bit smaller than 3/4 of an inch. And so if I was to spend the money on one blank that was the normal size, what I can usually get, I would only be able to get one wand out of it. And it's crazy expensive. So there's no way. This one I got lucky. The rough cut blank that I got was just a little bit over 1.5 inches wide. And so with some really careful cutting, I was able to get exactly 3/4 inch blanks for this that were long enough. So I was able to get 4 wands out of this one piece of wood instead of just one, which means I can obviously divide that cost by 4, and it's still one of the most expensive woods I work with, but it's not if I would have charged the same price for one wand out of the same piece of wood, it would have been stupid expensive and just really not worth doing. So anyways, the problem that I had with this piece, once I cut it into quarters, there was enough grain in it. It's pretty straight when you get it, but when you cut something down, sometimes you don't know what the grain is like, especially these little project woods when they're covered in this waxy coating to keep them from warping. You don't know what the inside grain is going to be like. So when I cut this down, I had 2 pieces that started to bow, because you take that interlocking grain and you cut it apart. And so anything that's holding it straight, if you cut that part off, then another part of it can warp. So I had one piece that actually warped significantly. The other one just had a slight bow to it. But I was luckily able to cut off, because it was 18 inches long, was able to cut off the end and still salvage it for wands. So I did get three really good, mostly straight pieces that I was able to turn into wands. And then one that's a little bit shorter. I'm actually going to be using that for my own personal wand that I'm going to make myself. So, anyways, let's get into this. As you're watching, you've probably noticed I turn these wands. The basic premise of this is I get the wands round to start with. I get the blade of the wand cut down to about the size of a Sharpie so that I can feed that up into the chuck. And then I get the the as much of the wood supported as I can. So I have less unsupported wood there, so that I can start doing the detail work on the handle. So we're going to get into the detail work here. I've shown the first part of the process while I rambled on about this wood, and we're going to be doing some shaping. And while you watch the shaping there, just a quick reminder to slide down there and hit that thumbs up button. It really helps out the channel, and we certainly appreciate your support for that. So, yeah, some things about ebony, about the true ebony. So this is the first one that I was turning out of this, and I tried to do. I didn't want to get too terribly fancy with this. Just going to go with some shape and design on the first couple while I get used to how the wood feels. It is a very dense wood, and it can be difficult to work because of that. Of course, that one of the great things about it being so dense is it does polish very nicely. You can get that just almost plastic, just wonderful finish on it. It has a really tight grain, and it works great for that. But it does make it difficult to turn. So that's something to think about when you're working with this. If you do find some good sharp tools, really an absolute necessity for this as well. And you can notice too on that color, it's not. It doesn't look super black at this point. It's not till you actually polish and get the finish on it that it really looks that really deep, lustrous black. The Right now it's kind of yeah, it's a grayish, maybe reddish gray, black. But it's pretty dark. But overall, it is. It's every bit as lovely as what you've heard when it comes to the finished product. So definitely worth checking out if you can get some. I'm going to keep my eyes open for some more. So we've got our basic shape done. I'm working on the handle. It is a little bit difficult to sand because of the density. It does kind of clog up the sandpaper a bit. Not too bad, but the finish is totally worth it. So on this, what I'm going to do is obviously there's lots of sanding on here, and I do edit most of that out. But I'm going to go ahead and put my friction burns in there. Always try to do that. And this did friction burn really well with the wire tool, so I was really happy with that. But the other part, the ebony is already so dark that coloring options become difficult. Usually, all the other woods that you work with are going to be lighter than this. So, changing the color with ebonizing fluids or dyes or things like that, totally doable. But we're already basically working with as black as you can get. So making it darker is just not an option. So, especially since ebony is such, a rare kind of a precious wood. I didn't want to do completely, totally simple on this. So my idea is to uh, use those friction burn lines as guides because I'm going to put in some accent with the paint pens. So I'm going to do the first. We are doing two wands, so make sure you stick around to the end to check out the second wand. For the first wand, I'm going to do a silver, basically a silver inlay with the silver paint pen in those friction burns to give it some nice accents, and that's going to turn out nicely. And because they are in a recessed area, we'll be able to just do a simple oil and wax finish on that. We won't have to worry about that color rubbing off because it's down in a protected area where it's going to be difficult to rub out. So we'll get this parted off here, and fortunately everything stayed nice and straight. It's always kind of a toss up when you take that off. Like I said, when you are working with different woods, the grains can go wonky on you, and sometimes when you cut some off, it relieves the pressure and it'll warp one way or the other. So I am just using some denatured alcohol to wipe this down, make sure I've got all the dust and stuff off, get an idea of what the color is going to look like, and get the dust and stuff wiped out of all those recesses where I'm going to put in that paint pen. So we're just gonna get that all cleaned up, and I'm gonna grab my paint pen here, and this is just a Pilot silver paint marker with a little fine point on it. These seem to work pretty well. I've tried a couple of different things. I've also worked with just some good airbrush paint as well when I've done stuff like this. And matter of fact, the next video I have for the special edition, I did use the airbrush paint for the inlay on that. So a little teaser there. But this works pretty good just for doing concentric lines. Sometimes I have a hard time getting it to flow down into the cracks, and we'll come back after I get the paint in there, and we'll just clean that up a bit. And basically, what I'm doing is just sanding with the cleanup. I'm sanding off the upper areas where the paint got out of the recess a little bit. So we're going to sand that off and clean it up. So this is going to be a little bit longer video. Just because ebony's such a rare deal, I actually have quite a bit of footage of this, so I left quite a bit on here to check out. So if you're liking these videos, you do want to go down and hit that subscribe button down there, and make sure you ring that bell. And that way you'll get notified when the next video comes out. And like I said, I do have one more ebony video with the special edition where I'm going to do some fancy work on the handle. So you'll definitely want to check that out. So now that I've got that pretty well cleaned up, I'm just kind of wiping down, burnishing just a smidgen, and we'll pull this out so you can kind of look. This is with no finish on it. The only thing I need to do now is just taper that end. But you can see it's already a very dark, close to black wood on there anyways. Then we'll get some oil on this now so that you can check it out. And as you can see, the color is really coming out. It's a nice, dark, very pretty wood. I think that silver inlay complements it really nicely. And this is going to turn out great with that wax finish on it. So let's get into the studio here, and you can see under the proper lighting what it looks like. You can see there is just a little bit of texture from the grain that's in there, but it did polish up to an absolute wonderful finish on this. And I was really happy to finally get a chance to work this and to make a couple of wands. So I don't know how many I'll be able to do in the future because, again, very hard to come by. But anyways, for now, we're going to go with wand number 2. And of course, I've skipped ahead on this quite a bit. If you want to see how the first part of the wand is done, just rewind to the beginning. This first part of this wand went just the same as the other one, and we're just going to go right into the shaping on this. And for these first 2 wands, I was really torn. Ebony being such a difficult and rare wood to find, I really almost wanted to make these like all of them super fancy with, carving and inlays and all that kind of stuff. And I decided to make the first 2 a little bit more plain for 2 reasons. One is I did kind of want to get a feel for the wood. I was pretty confident that I could have gone fancy with this, especially after doing them this way. I know that I could have done that. But the second reason is the wood is already expensive. These 2, even the basic ones, are still going to be rather pricey on the high end. And so I if I would have spent the time to do all the carving and stuff on it, like the special edition that I'm going to do on this, it's going to really put it into probably the highest priced ones that I have. And I wanted to do a couple so that there was at least a moderate price point, at least for ebony. They're still going to be more expensive than a lot of the other ones just because the wood is so expensive. But this way, I'll have a couple of ones there that, people are interested in doing an ebony and they don't have a big pocketbook. They can still splurge and get a really nice ebony wand. That is, true Gaboon Ebony. That's that really nice black wood. That's, a little bit more affordable. So that's why I decided to go with this. And I'm happy with that decision. And I do, like I say, I have a couple pieces in the future. I probably will take the time. I won't do super simple wands like this in the future, out of ebony, very often. Just because, if you're going to go ahead and go for the crazy expensive wood in the first place, then you might as well just go all out and make it as fancy as you can. So, but for this one, we're just going to do our simple a simple gold inlay on this one with the same paint pen, just gold instead of the silver. And yeah, it turned out really nice. So we've basically done the same process here. We've got our handle shape, and we're just kind of cleaning up those lines. And then we'll, once we get it, partially polished up here, then we'll part that tenon off the end, and then we'll get our paint in there. So, just another quick reminder here: you can become a member supporter of the channel for as little as $1 a month. You can support us, and we've got several perks right now. We're working on getting some more. Once we get several members, and we're going to open up a Discord channel and stuff. So, it certainly helps out the channel if you want to be a member supporter. So, those of you who are already member supporters, thank you so much for your support. It's very much appreciated. So, anyways, let's get the end of this thing parted off. This video is already running rather long compared to the other videos, just because doing ebony is such a rare um, instance that I went ahead and probably left a little bit more in this video than I should have. I didn't edit out quite as much. So, anyways, we're gonna taper or clean up this end here. As you can see, there is just a slight wobble to this one, and I'm having to do this just like hand rotating it, which is fine, and having a little bit of a hard time getting that gold paint pen to put out the paint down in the crack as I would like. But all overall, it did work fine. So we'll get that in there, and I was, again, I was really happy with this. I think that that black really sets off that gold and silver paints for these. So even though these are going to be a little bit more on the basic side as far as the woods go, overall, I think that these are just going to be phenomenal ones, and I hope somebody is really, really happy with these. Again, we'll get a close up here as you can see how that's looking. And yeah, just going to put a taper on this, and we'll get some oil on it, and that black color just pops out when you get that finish on there. And then once we get the wax finish on here and polish it up, we're going to jump into the studio. And as you can see, the studio shot here just really the lighting is just so much better, so you can really get a feel for how fine of a finish that you get on ebony wood. So again, not the easiest wood to work with, but a phenomenal wood overall. I'm super happy to have gotten that. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you'll join us for the next one when I do the final ebony wand out of this batch of wood, and the final video in this 8 new wood series. And that's going to be the special edition ebony. Save the best for last, and I spent a lot more time on that one. So anyways, we appreciate you watching, appreciate your support for the channel, and we will hope to catch you on the next video.